guys, it's Ben here from Second Dynasty. We are streaming from our offices here in semi-sunny Vanishboy. It is the final hours of our Starship The Next Generation mini campaign that we put up on the brand new My Mini Factory Tribes. This was never meant to be at the scale of our usual Kickstarters, so we were hoping for, to just be able to get enough of a budget to keep us going for a couple of months while we continue to work on the Beowulf. And you guys have blown us once again out of the water. We may just hit $29,000, which would be absolutely fantastic. Of course, the big difference between this and Kickstarter being that, MMF ends up being cheaper, and also instead of having to wait for your files, you have all of those base files already. And we should have, by the end of this stream up, some of the first stretch goals. I believe we're going to have wide floors for engineering, wide doors, and diagonals. Is that correct, Albin?
That's correct.
In the background, Albin may be heard, perhaps even Lisa-Lot, but she's a bit further away from the microphone. It is also going to be our official moving in party tomorrow, in conjunction with a local festival that we have going on called Aqua Blue, or Aqua Blue. So that should be fun. So tomorrow night we're going to have a piss up, and you guys have given us an extra reason to celebrate. But yeah, we have over 600 backers. We tried to do this a little bit cheaper this time and that's good dollar value for money, I believe. Anyway, I'm going to stop going on about that. We've been working on two things this week. One is our next upcoming ship. We haven't 100% settled on whether or not we're going to do a Kickstarter or a My Mini Factory campaign, but I am leaning slightly towards a Kickstarter because I think it might get in a new audience. And of course it will appear on Tribes. So I've been working on the Mark IV, which is an evolution of our original Space Shuttle Alpha. The original Space Shuttle Alpha design way back when was very, very simple, although it does have a more, we can look at the old model. So this is basically what the original version looked like, although we do have some additional parts here. Along with the camera. Am I coming in now? Let's see. Just waiting to see if people are able to see again now that the stream is on. It isn't on?
It might be on.
Okay.
Yeah,
alright, it seems like... Okay, sorry about that, guys. A classic streaming issue. But yes, we're updating the Shuttle Alpha to the Mark IV, which has a significantly different front end. I guess it's a slightly different purpose. The wings aren't necessarily going to be a part of it. But yeah, we've been working on this, and this will be our next mini campaign. Although I'm maybe 95% sure now that we're probably going to run on Kickstarter, just because I'm thinking it'll bring in a new market, The one thing we haven't really done too much with is the interior, so I'm considering mixing up the interior as well. But the idea is to make a lot of these parts cross-compatible with the original, so we're actually doing an upgrade on the Mark III sort of version as well. So if you wanted a slightly higher detail mesh and a few different options, we'll probably still take this original pieces and see what we can do about, converting them. We'll see. That probably we're looking at early July. We'll see how things go. But the bulk of my work this week has mostly been on the Beowulf. So let's, if there are any questions about this, we can certainly come back to it and isolate it because it'll run a bit faster. So let's leave this up there. And we can switch over to the Beowulf. So this scene is a lot messier. Stupid Dropbox. But we have seen some major improvements and prints. So I don't know how close I can get the camera, but if I move it over, you can see on the table here, let me just switch to close-up mode. Oh. I don't have too much reach there, but you can kind of see it sitting on our level up table, that the ship has gotten a bit longer. Maybe I can lift it. So it is significantly larger now, mainly in the cargo bay. So it's, it's quite heavy. I'm gonna put it down. So I've actually just put on a 32-hour print. Don't know how it's doing. Hopefully it's doing all right. But the print consists of these pieces here, which is the fuel tanks. So it's these parts here. So quite a big, hefty cavity there. Enough room, nothing actually built in at this point, but a great cavity to hold batteries if you need it. If we're doing any kind of lighting on this, really the next kind of lighting I'm looking into is induction. I wanna check out magnetic induction lighting, where you would not need to use the wires. So so that it would be easier to install, but still making things, you know, possible to easily install wired lighting as well, by having these nice battery cavities. And I'll when I do the back section here, I'll make sure we've got some room for wiring if we want to, you know, light the engines or that sort of thing. I haven't added in yet the navigation lights. That'll be on the next level, and in fact that's just what I've started doing. So if I put on the remainder of the ship decks, that should be it. There's a bit of a mess here because we have the turret ring in place. We have these things down the bottom which aren't a part of the original design, but they are there for the support rods. There is like a row of bottom lights here, but if we just look at the mesh here, it might be a bit hard to see actually, but if I highlight here, this is where the rod would go. And then we've got this space back here that we could potentially install some underside lighting if we wanted to, although it does specify in the designs that it's, you know, for the ramps, and it makes little sense to me that they light up the area underneath the lamp. And underneath the ramp, sorry. So I don't know. We'll see what we do there.
We got a suggestion that the fuel processor's hollow area should be a dice tower.
I mean, it's a humorous idea, but no. It's just one level of this is a mess to try and figure out all the details. It may be an idea for a stretch goal once we've got things developed. But at the moment, I don't even want to think about how I'd have to reconfigure this to turn it into a dice tower. It's probably not the worst idea. You could just roll it down the edge and it would end up down here somewhere, but yeah, possibly. My thinking is that you'll have up to this deck here, which so you will be able to see down into the fuel tanks, even though they're empty. They're not going to have anything in them. I'm not planning to add much more detail than what we've already got. So really what I'm all about right now is just trying to get this piece finished, which is going to sit here on top of this piece, because the doors have evolved somewhat since the last time. I've prototyped approximately 6 different versions of this, and I'm not happy with any of them, but the most recent one sort of has a slight channel. If I get it to close, it has a slight channel here, which is more of a guide for it to follow. I think in all honesty it needs to be a bit bigger. You can kind of see there's a there's a little side piece here, which is supposed to take that sort of channel, right? It's supposed to run through there. You're not going to see this very well in Maya because of the way that animation works in it, and we're just up a little too close. But yeah, the idea is that it runs through that channel. You can kind of see it there. Only thing is, it didn't really print, and it's kind of claustrophobic, hard to get that detail. So the idea is it would stabilize these two sides. So it's not like the door isn't functional. It is. It's just, it's not smooth in the slightest. And it doesn't feel like it, stays like a proper van door. So I would imagine that I'll probably return to working on that mechanism a bit more in the future. Or for a better way for it to stay closed when it is closed. So possibly we could have had a little clip or notch here that sort of holds it in place when it is closed. But of course, obviously, you want to be able to get that cargo container through, right? The awesome cargo container that Albin designed.
Woo!
And so yeah, we need to take that into consideration. So I'm just going to put the side back on here, and I think one of the first things I'm going to do is start cutting this up so that we can have like just the top half here. Well, I don't actually know what's best. Should we have this all as one piece to preserve the look of it? Because you're not going to have anything above this, right? If we go to deck A here, right? That's our next stop. Having this deck here, so we could potentially have this lift out.
Oh, John got a question concerning doors. He meant to ask, did the bottom hinge doors work?
I have not tried them on this model. I kind of have been prioritizing getting the first layer down, so by the end of this weekend we should have up to here done, essentially. So next week we'll probably tackle the back of the ship, because it became a simple element of, yeah, I can design those areas now, but really I want to get the full deck C done, so that we can actually get an idea about exactly how big it's going to look on the table. Like you saw before, it can be quite large, or rather, it's going to be quite large. I think it looks good so far, especially now looking back at it. My camera wasn't really doing it justification, because there's a lot of bloom happening on the camera. But still, so what I want is parts of this today. We have a backup on this side, so we can start cutting this. And I think, honestly, it's probably easiest just to cut it, or to have this end here and this part just lifts off. But I think for the sake, if we take a look at what we've done solution-wise already on deck B and A. So deck A starts here, right? So it would be a bit weird if, like, this isn't a printed piece yet, so it's not like we can't change how this works. But it would make, it's going to lift off here anyway. It probably makes more sense if we, like, cut it along here, but there's going to be more seams. But still, I kind of feel like it makes sense, because then we could get all of this at a similar level. I'm trying to think also, like, it's not going to quite be balanced because of the way that this is coming down. So I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about that. Deck C is a bit of a wonky one. Sorry, A, because it is split level. So it's always going to be a little tricky to set up on the table. But if I was smarter, I wouldn't have had this little hook down there. And it's kind of gotten to the point where it's like, yeah, it's flawed, but this will do. Like, we started in February. It is now June. I've been working on this probably, I'd say this is legitimately probably about 14 weeks in, maybe 15. So there's a lot of work that goes into these ships, and a lot of it's just figuring out how to figure out that nice balance between things. I don't think hinges are necessarily more durable, that blasted summer flange. In the case of this door. What are you going to do? Hinge it from the top? It's still at a really awkward angle. The sliding door actually is mechanically more... easier to implement. The problem is that it's just a little delicate. So I'm going to start by splitting this, and we can always reunite it if we have to. So I'm going to take off the deck A parts, and I'm just going to keep this and this and this. We'll start with these ones and isolate these so we can just see the grid, so we know where we're going to be slicing it. So 4 squares down there, and we've got this set to grid snap. We're going to go for the cut tool, and we're just going to cut through here. So all we were looking to do there, and if we now, whoops, we already had it where we wanted it. If we look at it now, you can kind of see here that there's a line across. And if we just take all of these lines, looks like it goes the whole way around, and we're doing a separate, we should now have this in, oh, that didn't work. Why? I'm looking for where this is bleeding over, and apparently the issue is here. There's not actually, let's just delete this face for now. Oh, there's more of an issue. Where's the next one? Still there. Okay. Oh, what? It's not on that side. Okay, so how's it getting that? I do not know. And it's not letting me undo. What do you mean the undo queue is turned off? How does this happen? This has me worried, because if that's off, chances are... where am I looking? I'm looking for my autosaves first and foremost, which is in files and projects. Okay, the autosave is still on, that's good, but where are my undos? There, undo. Why is it off? That should just never be off. Okay, great.
Reset or what the fuck?
I don't know. Maya is Maya. That's annoying. So I might actually delete this. I should be able to undo it now. Yep. And we'll start with this again, which I said was, oh, it's not our backup though. This is frustrating. Wait, hang on, is it? Alright, it is the same. We don't have this little loop in. Okay, so it is safe to duplicate this. Let's freeze those transformations, and let's try this nonsense again.
Mon Capitan. Ah, Jesus. Whatever. He said, or she said, I don't know. Beware beer-induced modeling. It always come back to bite you. And unfortunately, we're not beer-induced yet. But it still bites. So that's just unfair.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfair. But I don't know what's going on in this section. It looks alright when I mean, alright is a relative question when it comes to this mesh, but we're just trying to get this cross section going. So let's try this again, splitting it and see if we can select. Okay, now it's working. Alright, so let's separate that into two meshes. This one, if we go up a level, we're still on whole deck B sides here, so we want to remove it from this layer. We'll put this one on whole deck A sides, and we'll put this one on whole deck B sides, just so that, you know, we're keeping the areas that we want to keep. And we're going to have to separate this part too, so this is going to actually be in two separate parts, similar to here, because we want to be connecting it to this wall. Though, mind you, the connections that we're going to use will be the same sort of stuff that we solve down in the toilets on deck. Let me just deck C here. So this connection here uses these two half open lock clips that have this sort of like wedge on the end to keep them in place. So the tighter sort of clips really make a difference in that sense. So let's put deck B interiors back on, and we already know, because we've got a similar situation here. I've tried to make all the parts like no longer than 5.5 inches, so that pretty much every print bed should be able to handle that. Again, assuming FDM here, not resin. So I'm just gonna select some of these pieces that we want to meld into one. So these will all be in one piece, and then I think even this. So we've got some of those connections left, and a lot of the work's already done for us when we do split that second section. Not all of it, but some of it. Yeah, but we haven't done the full integration with that. We might be skipping a couple of steps, but we can certainly shape this wall around where we want it to be. But I need this edge as well. Sorry, not that one, this one. So we'll probably be splitting this in the same area, I would say. And in fact, it looks like that line. Oh, it's almost aligned. Okay, so if we look at this from the side, we just want to get this the split correct. So it is so close, but no cigar.
Oh.
Much like Albin's sister.
Good point. I haven't used my phone yet.
You still haven't heard anything?
No. I had a picture of her, and it looks really. she looked kind of hardcore, like she was like a sailor in a dock, about to have a bit of a, what do you call it, snuff?
Snuff being
chewing
tobacco,
yeah.
not the other version of snuff.
Not the movie kind.
And of course, to make things clearer, we're not talking about Albin about to become a father. It's his sister, not him himself. So, no need to send any congratulations. Well, I mean, you can if you want, but I mean, yeah, it could be misconstrued. So Sorry, Albin, I didn't even ask you if that was alright.
That's alright.
Well, it should be now.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Tonight. What the fuck was I doing?
He's swearing. He must be upset. Alright, so let's do the same thing here where we're just looking to separate this mesh. Oh, why? Of course that didn't work. Why didn't it work though? Let's try merging these vertexes first. Okay, so that looks like it's much better. Cut and separate. Delete history. And let's put this on deck A sides. And this can be used in conjunction with this. So some of this, should that all be one piece or not? Because we do want, some of this is quite challenging to try and engineer and figure out, so I don't know how exciting this is. I guess occasionally I'll just switch over and see if we've got some new backers. It looks like, oh shit, we did. We hit 29,000. It just seems like some people must be buying some crazy add-ons or something because it's jumping too high, it feels like. But in any case, wonderful and well received. And let's see. I have no idea what makes people back or not back. Just try to make cool stuff. So this is going to slot in here, kind of Lego style. So maybe I'll just add we will take, there's no reason not to integrate that, I guess. Let's work on the paneling a little bit maybe. And I want to be in wireframe mode, just so that we get everything in place and we can start combining then. Oh, it wasn't snapping correctly. There we go. So we really need to reform this panel here so that it's just going around this section. But I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm missing the context here, so maybe I'll grab this and I'll grab this. Because there's going to be, okay, that's the top there. Then there's going to be another panel that slots in there. A well-designed piece would be overlapping, so that like we would maybe grab this edge. There's probably a tiny little bit there. So that we want to just extrude this over. And this is like getting to the point where I am finding this is starting to feel a bit tedious, but at the same time, I can kind of quite easily just switch over to the Mark IV whenever I'm like super bored, so I can just do something new on this one instead. Because we will be releasing it before the Beowulf, but I'm hoping to kind of like have the prototype done by the end of the month, so that it could potentially get sent off to be painted, or I can go on holidays knowing that the hard part is done. Although I'm not going on holidays until mid-July. But Albin is. He's excited. You have your infill at 20% with 10% overlap. As those infill, I only put my infill at about 7%, 7 to 8%. So I would say you're printing more than you need to. I don't know about this overlap business, to be perfectly honest. But infill wise, yeah, 7 to 8%. We can look at the settings here if you want. Fill density is 7%. Usually it's 8, I think, if I reset this. Yeah, 8. Gyroid patterns, what I use in Prusa Slicer. Again, even if you don't have a Prusa, it does support many third-party printers. I will check to see if yours is there, because I do feel that this is a more complete piece of software than Cura or Simplifier 3D. It often has great solutions, and then the other wonderful thing that's built in is you can actually netfab things, like fix through netfab to fix any issues that you find, which is how I problem solved here. I was getting some thin hole issues with holes in these meshes, and then of course it saves its scene files as 3MF, so yeah, it's kind of, it does more better, I feel, but that is just my opinion, man. So yeah, let's I'm probably just gonna have this wall come straight up there. There's no point in getting this curve back, I don't feel. It's more about like how we're gonna get these parts to connect together. Like I said, I want a bit of overlap, so I'll probably just make this part underneath so that it comes in as a sort of interlocking L. So it's like just a little piece jutting out here, and then the proper connection will be here, like the other part down there. So we don't need to worry so much about pieces sitting flush with this design, because we have multiple connections along the entirety of the ship there, so they're going to balance out. Yeah, the infill's I wouldn't say way too high. 20% isn't like the worst in the world, but it's unnecessarily high. The pattern matters more than the actual infill percentage, I feel. And the pattern can also have an effect on what your final piece actually looks like. So if we are going in with this design, I think the best thing to do right now is if I actually slice this. So I'm just gonna separate those edges. And what that does is it makes the upper and lower part separate, right? So then what I wanna do is just take, what do I wanna do? I wanna just take these edge pieces. I'm gonna keep it in, I'm going to keep it in face mode, because this is a way I know I can safely select just the edge polygons, essentially. Like, I could go into the edge tool, but I'm not going to. We'll move the pivot point so that it is aligned to the very edge. Then we're just going to move this back so it's parallel to this line. So like so. So we need to work on the geometry to make this make sense, right? The idea being that this is an actual planned out panel. It's a fairly simple process to do this, I feel like. So if we just take these and then drop it down by the same amount as from there to there, we should get something close to where we want it. And in fact, if we just take these inner pieces instead, we're basically looking for where this is going to be. So if we move this pivot point to where that is, that's not going to help us. But if we move it so that it is here, which is the distance between here and here is what we're looking for, we drop that down, right? And we have that now aligned with the bottom corner. Now we just rinse and repeat this essentially until we've got that angle that we're looking for. So let's just let's move the pivot point again, and this is like, I guess, slightly more advanced use of the tool. It's not really necessarily designed for this, but it is sort of like just a way that you can get things to align without having to worry about, you know, grids and things. So again, we've got the equivalent of this piece right there, but we want the difference between there and there. So if we move this pivot point there and just increase it slightly again. Oh, that didn't look like it was doing much. Where was it? Oh, was it lower? Maybe I didn't have it quite where I wanted it. Let's see, let's put it back where it's supposed to be, and then there. There we go. And then the last one. Oh, I know what it is. I didn't move it up first so that it's parallel with the last one I did. So if we put that there, and then just increase it, we've got this back in place. Oh, actually this needs also to be angled, so we just go up and do the opposite where we move it there and then just down a teensy bit. So now this should look like it's all at a 45-degree angle, which it does. We can get rid of this face. We're going to select that edge. I'm just making sure nothing else is selected, which there are other things, so we're just going to redo this selection. Then we're going to do an extrusion, and again we're going to do a trick where actually, oh, we're going to do a trick. Yes, we are. With the pivot point, so we're just going to move the pivot point to this angle there, and because it's all at 45 degrees, you know, that all lines up very nicely. And then all we need to do is just come in here and grab these individual vertexes, drop them down, and this panel now looks like it's designed to go in this L shape, right? And then we just need to merge these, which I've now done. And we have this, oh, we need to also re-merge the vertexes along this line because we separated it to make it easier to select. So now we should be able to close this off. We should be able to select the right color, which should be light brown. The colors don't really matter when you're modeling. This is also not proper shading, or it is proper shading, but it's only just Lambert's very simple colors. I've noticed that I've made this brown bleed over a bit more than it should, so I'm just going to switch this back to the Lambert one, which is a default gray. And this is just to make it look good in the viewport, because recently we've not been doing any proper renders. We will do some proper renders in Arnold with this ship when it's done, but we'll probably take the base colors and create Arnold shaders from them. I'm gonna just connect these all as well. And why not do this while I'm at it? So mesh, combine. Oh, wait. Did I select more things than I should have? Let's see, I wanted that. That makes sense. And then I just want this. Mesh, combine. And then we should be able to... There are a couple of issues here that we need to address. But we can just take out this face here. And again, we want to unite some of these polygons. Sorry, not polygons, vertexes. We have a couple of extra ones here for some reason too. I don't know why. Was there a wall there or something? No. Let's see if we can delete them. We could. Okay. So that should no longer be an issue, this edge. Let's see. Alright, they don't want to merge, so we're just going to delete this face. And we should just be able to fill this in. It's recreated the geometry very quickly and efficiently. And then we need to make new faces here, so we're just going to do a standard bridge. We'll do the same here to here. So we now have the wall panel in place. It's going to still require some customization up the top when we finally figure out what we're doing. There are a couple of things here that aren't aligned as I'd like them to be, because the wall under here is also very much just a placeholder for now. And I kind of figured that you're never going to actually take this piece off because there's no real reason to. Actually, that's a good point. So we don't want this part to overlap, actually. At least not on this side. If it's going to overlap, it should overlap on this piece so that, like, this should extrude out a little bit if we're going to do any overlap. The overlap is basically to hide seams, to stop lighting from sort of bleeding through and whatnot. And yeah, we are going to just try and adjust this piece. And I usually work, let me just, this is frustrating me, this part. Why is it, it's on deck B sides. Do we need those? Yes, we do. Oh, that's the problem. It should be on deck A sides, not deck B sides. Add selected there. There we go. That makes more sense. So this piece was just mirrored from down here, but it's not going to entirely line up or match. And one of the things is, these are designed with these lines basically because it prints flat, right? And in fact, this wall here is, I thought I was thinking that out. Maybe I didn't. Sometimes you lose the features. So in a certain print orientation, so you might want to add just a little bit more thickness or, you know, extrusions to make it pop out when it's laying flat. I try not to make walls print out lying flat because you don't get the same detail that we want these days. But let's see. Okay. So we want to move these open lock clip ports up a bit higher. They're not aligned right now. Technically, I could probably align these a bit better so it kind of matches how we do floor tiles. But I don't think it really matches. The important thing here is that these clip holes are going to meet each other. So the easiest thing to do here is to look at it from the side. We're just going to grab these, the upper section here, find one of the points of the clip there, and then we're just going to move it up until it is aligned with the start of that clip there. So if we just do this, those clips are now aligned. Of course, the top doesn't match. Again, we're going to do a trick where we use the vertexes with the scaling tool and just scale it down in the Y, which in Maya is up. If you were thinking in terms of 3D printers, it would be the Z axis or Z axis. I'm in a bad habit of pronouncing Z as Z. It's one of the differences, I believe, between American English and rest of the world English. Let's see, so we want to go up again and do the same thing. Careful not to move too many of these other bits and bobs. Let's see, I'll not take those with me. And I'll actually not take any of these edge pieces with me. But we do want that one. So there we go. So it is the last day of a stream, and we do only have another quarter of an hour left. But it does finish at 6, and there is an air show on today that I really don't want to miss. We have in Sweden our own fighter jets, the Saab. Yes, that Saab. Saab was originally an airplane manufacturer before it was a car manufacturer. And whilst Saab, the car manufacturer, has gone bankrupt thanks to GM, the airplane manufacturer has not, and they're still making fighter jets. So the JAS 39 Gripen, or Griffin in English, is our standard fighter, and they're going to send one over at 5 o'clock to do some maneuvers pretty much right outside our window, so I'm not missing that. It is quite a maneuverable plane for a 4th generation. And the trick is they're small, light, delta-winged with canards, and really designed to coordinate with each other to kind of form a defense net. And they can also land on highways. So, you know, if the Russians try and bomb our airports, they're going to have to go to a lot of other, bomb a lot of highways to make sure that they can't, they can eliminate the Gripen. Something's going wrong here. These aren't matching up. Okay. Question. Which one is right? That's a big issue. Let me just grab there, and the way we can test it is if we put this on grid mode instead. Okay, so that's the right height. But why is it not matching? And what do we have to move to make it match? Is it sticking out too much? Is that the issue? No, it's too high. It looks like it's too high. What's going on there? Look at this. There's like overlap. Yeah, that's not matching. So did I move something? Or does it just not in general match? That's the question. So that's... oh. So this should be... sorry about this, I'm thinking out loud a little bit. This should be at the same level as that, but it's not. It's off by just a little bit. So the question is any more of it off? Are these off? So if this moves, let's see, that doesn't move. So it must have just got moved when I was cutting and pasting things. Because yeah, that should be slightly higher. Okay, that should be higher, but that's lower. I don't know what's going on. No one ever tells me. Because I'm the boss. It's hard being the boss sometimes. Alright, let's get that aligned with that, and we'll just manually move up all of these other pieces. We don't want to move this corner because we've already got it in the right direction, so we're just going to grab the vertexes here, and then we'll grab all the vertexes here and to there, and these ones, and then these ones here. Hopefully that's all, there's no hidden geometry behind there. So we're going to have to move the pivot points again. And hopefully if I just move this to there, so let's again make sure that's aligned and move that down. Hopefully everything all blending together seamlessly. That's looking better. There's a gap there though. Oh right, yeah, because it's this wall has some polygons we need to remove. So adapting existing geometry can be a time saver, but it can also complicate things, adding more problems to the mix, as is being demonstrated before our very eyes. And I sliced this in such a way because I want it to print out flat on the bed like that, so we get the best optimal detail for those fuel intakes. Let's see. Oh, okay, we've got some Aerospace Comments. Swedish Bikini Air Force Squad. The Gripen reminds me of the ill-fated Arrow. Well, the Gripen was not so ill-fated, and Saab has been doing Delta Wings since the 50s, I want to say. I don't know when the Draken came out, but... I want to say the 50s. But it is an attractive airplane. If one is that way inclined. So I think we can just actually, we don't need to do what we've done over there. We can actually just sync these. We're gonna have to redo that wall anyway. So okay, let's take that out and we'll add back in some geometry. Right there. Then we'll do a second one there. And then we can now grab this edge and this edge. Hopefully this time I'm not moving anything by accident. Closing that off. Right, so that now matches. So this is a long, slow, somewhat tedious process of getting things to match. So essentially a piece like this is taking me like around a day at the moment to make, which is both fast and slow, but this is relatively simple in detail. The back of the ship in some ways is both easier and harder than the front of the ship. We don't have these curves to worry about in the same way. It is a lot more geometrical, and I think from this point forward approximately there's no sloping going on underneath. Again, a few slight modifications are made there. Let's turn off the wireframe just so we can see a bit better. Mostly so that we can add that additional support. I don't think this really adds anything that's obnoxious, even if it's maybe slightly suboptimal for, you know, re-entry of a Beowulf class. But I mean, if you're worried about drag, these things, nothing compared to these things, right? So I mean, they basically fly in anti-gravity anyway, so who the hell knows? It's a hand wavium. All right, so let's just keep going here to get this. I feel like the cargo bay's got a quite nice solution now. The main thing that's left is figuring out this walkway, and I think making it retractable is the way to go. If we look at the deck plans, I don't have them open now, so I say that, but we're not going to actually look at the deck plans. But it kind of shows a very thin partition here and along the walls here, so it's actually meant that the walkway is closed off from the cargo bay. I don't know if they've counted that against the squares used for measuring cargo, but my idea would be that maybe this is a slightly retractable walkway. Now the reason for that being that if you have this standard cargo, if we take this and move it, you can see that it interferes with where we want to have that flooring, right? So I've already started preparing for that by having a thinner floor. But the other thing that the cargo bay has, if we do turn on deck A, is this actually 2.5 squares of clearance. Actually, wait, yeah, 3 squares worth basically. So it's what is it, 4.5 meters from here to there. So there is a bit more room to play with for potentially retracting that passage. But how to do it in a nice way, I don't know. I think the way I would do it is assuming that it isn't actually sealed. There technically is a way to get down to engineering from the actual garage. That's in the original design. It's just that I think it pops up behind the garage, or I don't know, there's a slant. It's unclear. In our version, you will still be able to get from the front of the ship to the back of the ship if the cargo bay is depressurized, but you would have to go through the passenger commons to do so. And essentially want to hope that you can squeeze around that aircraft a little bit, because if we do have it's still going to be like a squeeze to get in, but you could do it in a pinch. So it's a little bit more secure than what it was in the original deck plans. What's happening? What? Oh, Saab Drake in 1955. Half step up at either end. What is happening, guys? Is there something going on here? A couple of new backers. What? It seems like the money's hopping up way too high. But in any case, like, John, wouldn't it be funny if we hit 30,000? John did not have a huge expectation for these last couple of days, and I'm just like, but on Kickstarter, 2/3 of our financing comes in the last couple of days. I know it's different on MMF, but we do have some banners and things up, which helps a hell of a lot. And I've been really slack and not really advertised the campaign either, which is both bad if you want to make money, but also a lot less work. So there is a balance to be found here. So the Beowulf, we're getting to 4 o'clock now already. So this part certainly isn't going to be done today. 50 per backer for the last 2. Yeah, and it's a great numbers for something that I was expecting to be, 20, 25, close to that. At least half of the backers I was expecting would be returning backers. A lot of people don't seem to have, I guess the original Starship 1, there wasn't a huge amount of people that backed. It was only about 250, I think. So maybe there's a lot of people that missed it, but I feel like we did offer those tiles as a part of other packages that a lot of people bought. So I don't quite know what's happened there, but I'm very pleasantly surprised. And one thing we can say for certain now is this campaign has certainly performed well enough that we will do, more of Starship 1 and 2 tiles updated so that they'll follow this method. This is a great project now that, especially that Albin is, getting used to finding solutions for the real issues that come up. He looks like he's pulled out some of his hair. Just over the curves and diagonals, I think, in particular. So the plan is not to continue streaming for another 2 hours until the end of the campaign. So I don't think we'll have a finishing live stream. If we do, I'll just pop on for the last 20-30 minutes once that beautiful bird has finished flying. It is a little bit cloudy at the moment, but it's not raining. So hopefully, they're going to fly low anyway. But exciting times, guys. Thank you if you did back and for making this campaign successful. So we will, in the future, revisit the habitation tiles from Starship 1, along with the more bulkheady type passages and whatnot from Starship 2. I think we have hangars too that we'll eventually address as well. So a few positives and negatives with the way that we've solved some of the problems, but I kind of feel like the compromise we made is well worth it. So it seems you guys agree with your wallets, and I'm very happy with these results. For a mini campaign, this is an excellent innings, and be sure to stay tuned because the next project will be coming out sometime at the beginning of July and will consist of the Mark IV shuttle. I don't know if these wings are going to be on the base version, and we may switch out the interior so that it's just, I don't know, maybe we'll go a little bit more of a cargo variant in this one. But yeah, we hope to see you on that campaign again, and we'll be back next week after the long weekend. It is our National Day here on the 6th of June on Monday. So, and again, we have Aqua Blue on the weekend. So we're going to be partying with our moving in party officially for our officers tomorrow night. So we'll be thinking of you all and probably toasting to you when that goes on. Take care, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye, guys.